So I'm going to bring up Wynn Grant to give a welcome.
So this is the meeting at which we changed regimes, I guess you would call it. We had an election last night, and we're going to swear in the new officers and directors. And Bruce, as he always does, remembers all these things that have to happen to make things function around here. Came up with the program that you all have there, and so I just want to tell you one of these days, if we're really part of for a program, if you look at the back, there's all the past presidents. I actually met. I got a license when I was 13 years old, and I started to go back. Started meeting back in the 1960s. Some of these those maybe that's just me coming. Maybe that's just me coming. Yeah. That's working on me. That's working on me. Anyway, there's some really interesting. There's some really interesting people. And one of these. We'll have a story time about some of these characters who were past presidents. Well, tonight we're gonna have the swearing in of officers. See, Rick, do you want to do the review? Yeah, I'll go ahead and do that. This point, we want to make sure that we have.
First thing I want to do is remember those who get lost this year. John DeMayo, former president, very important member of this club. Max McNear, we lost, he was our agent for the club. We lost Richard Arnold, who had been very active in the club in the past, not so much in the last couple of years, but was a treasurer at one point. So you want to remember those important members that we lost. If I left that anybody, but I thought it was three that I could think of. RARC has always been known as a teaching club, and it's continued to be that. With Bruce McAllister and his instructors, they teach our schools. I think they're running real well. And also a new wrinkle this year, or at least revisiting a wrinkle, was the Makers Fest, also run by Bruce McAllister. Bruce does so much for this club. I think I'm an awesome figure.
For that, so I get away with it.
I knew that.
Yeah, you hand me the sleeves over the vest, right?
Let's see, this year, participated in the Monument 10K and the Richmond Marathon, lots of volunteers. So that was something the club hadn't done before. We had our repeaters, put in our new upgraded repeaters, and Wynn Grant was the instrument, and Mike Owens also got with some of the technical aspects. We got that up and that's running. I want to remember that Bonner United Methodist Church has been so gracious to give us a nice place to meet. Tom Flippett's not here tonight, but he continues in his role of being our liaison with the church, which I think, if you think about the plight of other clubs not having a nice place to meet, it's a great advantage to have this place. So we're thankful. I am happy to see some younger hands step up into leadership positions. Lauren, Volker, and Will are stepping up into leadership positions, and I think that's the direction we need to go in our hobby, because there's a lot of old folks, and we really need to find some way, and through the Maker Fair is one way, and other ways to get young people into the hobby. Otherwise, even though there are lots of numbers, we want to get younger people to participate. So that's really all I had to say. So I'll bring you back up, Bruce.
Okay. So, and you'll see from the list that we're seeing here tonight, the people that you elected last month were Daryl as president, Lauren as vice president, Will as secretary, some guy named Leidner Mr. Treasurer?
I forgot one thing. Can I say one more
Yes.
thing? I will also wanted to, we struggled for some time to get the Zoom thing in Kinliger, brought us the hours. I think we finally have a successful solution. Thank you, Ken, for that.
Okay. Dan Bryant? A director? Walter? A director? Wayne Grant, director picked by the president. He is a new favorite here, so. And Rick, as always, the past president served as the director.
Oh, the ex-vacuum of the director.
The what?
Ex-vacuum of the director.
Yes.
Look it up if you want.
No, I didn't know what that was, but anyway, it sounds like a medical term, yeah, anyway. So anyway, that was and the reason that you, when Rick and I were the nominating committee, because none of us are standing for office, so it makes it kind of even. So, that's why we're doing this one. And only when the counselor here does the swearing in, but, since he's one being sworn in, we swap roles for a bit. So those of you who are, I've got this, I have to remember, this has to be done with visual symbols. This is the wukong. Does anybody know the story behind the wukong?
Yeah.
Okay, what's the story?
Back when, Hiram Percy Maxim was involved with the league, he used to talk about rotten QRM, which was the splattering of spark transmitters, and so he invented that to punish the perpetrators.
It does look like a punishment you would not want to.
Also, the Brady snitch, the same purpose.
So you don't want that.
You don't want that by that.
Although if you look at it carefully, it looks a little bit like a J-pole, doesn't it?
So anybody who has rotten QRM.
Now, this is a pretty high frequency J-pole, but it might work. Okay, as well as acting as a form of discipline. All right, so those of you who are standing for office, would you mind coming up here, because I think we need to see you in all your glory. And probably up here, because I think you can be seen by the owls. Well, right now we're carrying that. So. Oh, okay. Well, it should be a little formal. Okay, so this is I will say the phrase. Listen carefully. You can say it back. Okay. So I'm going to hold this up like this. I affirm. That I will faithfully execute.
That I will faithfully execute
The duties of my office.
the duties of my office
And will represent the members of the Richmond Amateur Media Club.
and will represent the members of the Richmond Amateur Radio Club
To the best of my ability.
to the best of my
All right, that's it. Thank you. You did well. That's great. Yeah, the roll call goes to you. We do have a ballot here, which is supposed to bring things to order. I don't think it's ever really worked well with that person, because we whack them alongside the head. So it's yours now.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, brother. I think, sure.
I'd like to voice my appreciation for the board, the leadership last year, and the job they did and the last 2 years. I really appreciate everything they did for the club, leadership for the last 2 years, and I look forward to working with the new board this year, and I appreciate your affirmation, affirming and having the trust, placing your trust in us. So with that, I'd like to begin the meeting, and I'd like to first ask, do we have any, I'd like to recognize the visitors. Do we have any visitors with us tonight? Yes, sir. In the back,
Anthony Young,
Anthony?
I sit in my membership.
Okay. So we have an application.
Well, yeah, he sent to be a member.
Okay, and look, your family is with you?
Yeah.
Okay, very good. And, sir, you?
My name's Eden. I came from Neighbor Fest.
Okay, Maple Fest. Okay, very good. Welcome.
Select to make the best work.
That's good. So, any other business? Oh, Don is with us?
Come on, Dave. Pay for it.
my over, it was extra, okay. And my wife, well,
Have you got a license yet? My wife said she never would.
so, what I'd like to do now is, kind of recognize everybody is here, introduction, so roll call, we might, start with Ken and go around with first name and call sign.
Ken, WD0L.
David, KJ4LHB. Bruce, W4BRU. Lynn, W4WIN.
Rick, KA4OHM.
Lauren, W4LEW.
John, WB4NHX.
Will, KR4CE, secretary.
Adam, KQ4OTH.
Scott, N1PZT.
George, WB4VWR, retiring teacher.
Congratulations.
Gene, K4GME. Steve, W4SB.
Kathleen, K5H2Z.
Dan, N4G, Bob, KD4ZRK.
No call sign yet. We'll work on that. Yeah, we'll work on that.
I'm Dan, W4ERF.
All the code, you know, very four goal, Papa Echo. And then Mike, K4, yeah.
Bill, N4WLZ.
Okay. Can you see, Ken, can you see who's online? Is that open that call sign?
Okay, we have John, W4ZA Clay. We have David. M, CK. We have Dwayne. Dwayne, you don't have your call sign. Could you tell us what your call sign is, Dwayne? What's your call sign, Dwayne?
W4YWA.
Dave, W4, is it LLA? IIA. Brad, K4AFB, and Ed, W4YWA. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, welcome.
That's
to all
correct.
those who are doing fire zoom. So next, I'd like to do is, get approval for the minutes. I think everyone got those by email. Had a chance to review those. Do I have a motion to?
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Approved. How about a treasurer's report?
Sure. We started out the month with $17,671.25. We had one dues that came in, by check, for $22. There are more dues, but they're hanging out in PayPal. I was a tad bit late in having PayPal transferred to the bank, so they'll be in next month. We had expenses, for the, accounts that we run two websites. We have the website that everybody knows about, and then there's a backup one so that, Bruce and I can play and make mistakes and not take the site down on people. That's came due $77.80. Bruce had to buy a new book because the new manuals came out for extra. So $34.93 to cover the instructor cost. As we change instructors, realize the club will pay for you getting books for yourself, not for anybody else. And then one of the products we have is called Duplicator, which takes backups of the website so that in case something disastrous happens, we can restore it. We take backups on Monday morning, Wednesday morning, and Friday morning. So that cost $99. So we spent $211.76. So we're down to $17,481.49. That, the other thing I get to do is We have 5 new people who would like to be members of the club. We have Diane Ingrove, I think I pronounced it right, Diane. She's I think she's actually a tech. Okay, this goes back to when there was a slight error on the application. Anthony Young is here in the back. He does not have his license yet. We have Matthew Harris, who also does not have a license yet. We have Joseph Cowdrick, who is a technician, and Herbert Lentimer, something close to that, extra. So I have 5 people. Can I have a motion to accept? So second?
Second.
Super. All those in favor, of accepting these terms?
Aye.
Super. You are now a member. You're no longer a visitor. All right. Congratulations, all of them.
Thank you. So next, do we have any school updates? You, okay?
You want to do Maker Fest as well?
Yeah, you want me to do that too?
So I have 2 things to report. Maker Fest, which we did last Saturday. Interesting enough, Tom Flippy kept saying we ought to do more operating. And I was saying, no, we'll do maker stuff. Well, this time we decided we weren't sure who was gonna be there. So we would want to have fun ourselves. We put up 2 stations and we had fun. And what was interesting was, we didn't realize this, people walked up and they saw the antennas and they brought them over. So now we know, and then also then we could have fun operating, but the point is, and they would come over and watch us if we try to operate. I have to say try to operate, because one of the antennas wasn't working very well, but the point is, that worked very well. I don't know, I haven't had a count yet of how many people were there. Do you remember when we did it at Side Museum, the first year we had 4,000, last year we had 8,000? I don't think we had anything like that, we had plenty of people. We had a lot of people stop by and check. Anybody else have experience with it? Any comments about the Maker Fest? Okay, and then we have big turnover of the, yes.
Did you make anything?
No, actually, we didn't. We sat there and
Made contacts.
we made contact.
Okay.
Do we have a big sign? A sign, you can see the antennas and you're like, "Ooh, what's those wires?" But if we had a sign, we'd be like, there they are.
Well, we don't actually need that. They look at the antennas and they come over.
Yeah.
The other one is the little, I showed them last month, the little code devices that Rob made for us for the thing in Hopewell. Those things are just incredibly popular. Dennis took them to a Boy Scout jamboree. Kids of a certain age love those. And so that attracted the kids, then the parents came over as well. So we had a lot of long conversations. I think that was different about this from last time. I sent a thank you note to one of the folks who does the organizers, and her response was, "Thanks for coming. My 21-year-old son spent 30 minutes talking to you guys. I think he's got a new interest." So that's the sort of thing that makes it worthwhile. Okay, well, we have a big turnover in the teaching this year. 3 folks just ducked out. I don't know what happened to them, but anyway, George is leaving tech, and you and I are leaving teaching extra. So I'm a little bit desperation what we're gonna do. Well, it turns out we've got 4 new people. So, so we're set for the classes. My brain is going soft at this point. Let's see. Van and, Dave White are gonna teach, tech. Dennis and Will are gonna teach extra, and Steve, and Dave Stevens is gonna continue to teach general. And if somebody else would like to back him up, help him on general, that's good. It can be very useful to have 2 teachers per class. That way the students can't stump each other. But, anyway, so that's where that's going. So amazingly, I thought I had a crisis last time. I have 4 new instructors. I can't beat that, so. That's, any questions? That's my report.
Thank you, Chris. Any old business? The old business? New business? Any announcements?
We have a marathon coming up next week, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We are very slim for positions for the marathon. If, anybody else would like to help us out, we greatly appreciate it. We could use a few more, we all anticipate that class and it would be some problem.
Okay.
Who signed up here? Okay. Oh, yeah. We could use some more folks. It's fun. You have a wall of people coming at you. It's fascinating to see.
If you have no experience, that's okay. If you do have, that'd be better.
There's water stops and med tents, and, mostly, we can shift them around, take people from water stops from the med tent, and then y'all take a water stop. And it's basically, you know, calling for supplies. Somebody trips over in front and hurts themselves, you know, SAG vehicles come get them, that type of thing.
The marathon is not having radios for themselves, veteran radios, so we aren't giving up.
There's some very big
Yeah.
lines.
So we're allowed, the amateurs are allowed, right? And I like the fact that they always pair up one of the experienced people with one of the least experienced, so you're not there.
Or give them a big break.
Yeah.
The registration for that, a lot of people will get it.
I have one request. Take some pictures so we can put.
Okay.
And
We'll make sure we get some of the costumes. They deserve it doing that
Really a
run.
lot of fun to have.
And it is.
It's a good cause. And it's good practice too for emergency stuff. We're sure to officially like, that, emergency that.
You know, separate net controls for each department, SAGs, medical, so it won't be inundated, you know, in one line, so.
It's also very easy operating. If you do things like contesting and stuff like that, this is way easier. So it's actually surprisingly kind of laid back because you're dealing with people, not radios. So it's just, there's not that much to the actual radio traffic.
Any other announcements? Any updates on the D-Star repeater, anything going on there?
We started looking at, a hardware for our next, IT upgrade. We hope to do, in the next 60 days.
Okay, just let the board know whatever you need, we'll take care of it. And, anything to report about the remote station?
it's working.
Anything? The remote station
A
here?
little competition sometime.
Okay, is there?
Yeah.
Well, we refer to, some of their newest hams is there's a station here, there's a station in a utility closet upstairs, and there are antennas on the roof over the gym. So when you have, according to your privileges, you have access, your club members have access to using a remote station.
160 meters to 440. The whole span.
The whole span. So that's up, and there's some former members moved to Asheville, getting awards, DXCC or all states awards using the remote station in 100 blocks. So, well, is there anything else?
Yeah, I've got a show and tell when it's convenient.
Yeah, let's go ahead and do that.
Okay.
You said it was your one.
So, how many people in here have solar generators? There's a little battery pack, inverter and everything. Do you have solar panels? Yeah. Well, I came up with a little innovation. I think that would be very useful. I haven't seen anybody else do it, so I thought I'd show you guys. But, you gotta have something to connect your solar panels to your little solar charge controller and or your battery pack, whatever you're doing, right? Well, a lot of times it'll be those black and red wires that you buy. They're fixed length. Oh, what they are. Well, if they're not good enough, or if you need to improvise another cable, having something like this is very convenient. Okay, because what you've got is you've got your solar panel connectors here, and you've got your 120 volt AC connectors here. So all you got to do now is come up with a extension cord and plug it in. Okay. And now, you know, if you got a 50-foot extension cord, you can extend those cables going to your solar panel and get it out there where the sun actually is. You see, and this is very convenient. And the thing of it is, you don't have to destroy your extension cord by doing this, right? Your extension cord still remains functional. Okay, but if you need the extra length, it's there for you. Okay. Now the problem with this is not idiot proof. Okay. You have to at least understand what you're doing. Okay. So the way I have this thing wired up, this is going to be at the solar panels. So what ends up happening is you end up with a connector like this at your solar panel. And if somebody comes along and says, oh, you know, well-meaning person, that's an AC cord, I need to plug it in. I've got a generator over here running, I'll go ahead and plug it in. Okay, yeah, this is not good for your solar panel. Okay, but I would rather have my solar panel get burned up than have my charge controller get burned up. That's why I put the exposed portion on the solar panel. Also, this is an exposed portion that will be on the solar panel. Well, actually, it would be like this. This will be the exposed portion on the solar panel. You could short this out and maybe cause a fire or something. You're not going to get shots from DC current, but you could, you know, you could short it out, heat up something, cause a fire. So it's not idiot proof. So when you have this thing hooked up, you probably just need to make sure that it stays hooked up. Okay. Okay. So I mean, I think it's how would you say a good innovation, and it doesn't cost a lot of money. You can make these yourself for about $10, or you can pay $50 and I'll put them together for you. And I'll guarantee them, and I'll give a you know, lifetime guarantee or half your money back. Yeah, well, that's about it. Boy, we're prohibited. Yeah.
So could I have a motion to convene the business portion of our meeting tonight?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
I see Patrick Bowman is online.
Give it a break, I guess, or?
No, I'm gonna go with Patrick anyway. I think Patrick, are you?
Yep,
Yeah,
I'm here. I'm here.
There you are, Patrick.
I'm right here. 10 for just a moment. Okay, I'll be ready.
All right, Patrick. Patrick is joining us. He'll do the program for us tonight, and he is the head wrangler. And I like this title, head wrangler for Geochron. The Geochron plots that we've seen, the mechanical plots we've seen for so many years. It'll be interesting to hear how he acquired the company and supporting the analog clocks and the innovation, the introduction of the digital version of the Geochron clock. So I'm really pleased to introduce Patrick from Oregon City, Oregon. And Patrick, welcome to the Richmond Amateur Radio Club. Patrick's call sign is KJ7CSU. So I'll let you take it from here, Patrick.
All right. All right. Give me about 10 seconds. Be right back. All right, everybody, let me share my screen. Just a moment, get set up. And go to screen 3, and here we go. Am I sharing a screen? You see my big face there? All right, give me a hands up if you can see that. Great, thank you. All right, so I'm Patrick. I'm the owner of Geocron. I bought the company about 10 years ago, and you might recognize it from the older mechanical clock that we still build today. So I'm going to spend a few minutes talking about the history of the company, and then about the incarnation of the digital that a lot of people know about, and then into the larger the ham radio bundle, which a lot of hams are using. And so let me jump over here to my PowerPoint presentation, and let's get started. So that was not me. Here we go. So I'm sitting right now across the river from Portland, Oregon, in Vancouver, Washington, across the Columbia River. And all Geocron Digital is just home offices. I got 2 developers in Portland. I got an admin here, and I got me. And then, but just behind me is where every Geocron Digital Atlas has been kitted. And so it is a home-based micro business enterprise, even though we have 5,000 or 6,000 customers on the digital side. And so everything is very much under my thumb. And we have people that are working there, kitting and loading, and sometimes it's me. And this is very much just a small little business. But I do get out for once in a while. My favorite thing to do is to visit Geocron owners around the world and mostly, the United States. And so here I am parked outside my motorcycle in front of the ARRL headquarters. And I decided during COVID, I'm like, I want to visit every Geocron. I want to visit a Geocron owner in all 48 states. And so I got on my motorcycle, and it took 7 trips, but I did that. I just finished up in April. And in fact, I'm in the middle of another one. What I do is I ride my motorcycle through a couple states, and then I'll store it near a big airport like Houston, and then I'll take an Uber to the airport, fly home, work for a couple months, and then line up on a couple more visits, do a few more states. And so in this way, I've done 56 visits in total in states outside of my own, of Geocron owners. So here I am talking with Steve and everybody at the W1AW. And then when I went to Massachusetts, what was the installation that I was going to pick in Massachusetts, but the Geocron mechanical and digital at MIT. So that was pretty great. Now, I'm not looking super good at this photo right here, but because I was tired and it was a hot day, but it was really cool to see something that we'd made installed at one of the greatest engineering halls of learning in the world. And sometimes I get outside the United States. So here's Martin talking to me in a location that is 1 hour north of London, and it is Bletchley Park. And this is the National Radio Center for the UK, which has a Geocron. And they have guys that sit there and will talk to the museum visitors. And they have a whole little building outside that museum that was featured in the Imitation Game. They have like 10,000 visitors a year just to this shack where they explain ham radio. And they use Geocron to do that and a lot of other gear. It's a beautiful shack. And that little sign there on the lower left-hand corner, which says, please do not touch anything. Because they don't want the little fingers messing around with stuff. For those of you who follow solar weather, as many hams do, I've been down to visit Dr. Tamitha Scobb, the space weather lady. You might have seen her on YouTube, and visited her in her home office where she does the broadcasts. She's a big Geocron fan too. But most of my visits are just like ham radio guys. Just super cool. So this is David Slobodnik. He is in Athens, Georgia. I spent the night at his house in his guest bedroom, and then he has 3 parrots and a couple dogs. And I woke up at 7:30 in the morning and sat down with his Elmers on the line and chatted it up with him. He's like, I got Patrick, the owner of Geocron here. And this was super fun. And then I went off and rode to Florida. But sometimes I'm visiting people that don't have digitals. They've got mechanical clocks. So this is the clock that was invented back in 1964. It's about the size of a 37-inch TV, but it's 40 pounds worth of clock with 300 parts on the inside. And this was the only way to see in a geographic map where the insulation, where the gray line was prior to the internet. The internet changed a lot of stuff, including the outlook for Geocron mechanical. But here we can see that the gray line, the sun is setting in Beijing, the sun is rising just outside Denver, and we have the analemma in the middle. And so this is an example of what the mechanical clock looks like. That was featured in The Hunt for Red October and Twister and Salt, but most famously there in The Hunt for Red October, as we can see here on the studio, with the late James Earl Jones posing in his boardroom in front of the Geochron. It was great. I got that photo in my office. But the most important guy in this picture is not President Ronald Reagan. It's Dr. James Kilberg III, who is the old guy here. And he is the one that invented the original Geochron back in 1964. And his first customer was all the boardrooms in Boeing. And no, not Boeing, Delta. And he's like, hey, I'll build a bunch of these for you if you pay me in advance. And that's how he started the company. And the youngest kid in that picture was his son, who went on to run the shop for 30 years. And I am in contact with him via email. He lives in Lake Tahoe, and I'm the guy that ran the shop for the last 10 years until just last year moved it to Colorado Springs. But this is something that we still build. How many mechanical oddities have passed the way when the internet was invented? So many, but not Geochron, because it's been carried by people like me who didn't want to see the beautiful mechanical clock die. And so we still make these today. We make about 100 new ones per day, and per year. And then we restore. So if you've had that hanging on your wall for 20 or 30 years, it's probably going to break. The gears do break down. It's a machine. And so the only place in the world that's going to work on it is a Geochron shop in Colorado Springs. And so that's what we do. And I'm proud that the company still holds together with the mechanical clock, even though the digital is pretty hot. This is a beautiful example of a limited mechanical clock. Now, these clocks aren't cheap. They're like $2,000 to $4,000 now. But it's never been a money-making enterprise. It takes 25 hours to build one of these things and about $1,000 in parts. So that's how much it costs. But on the other side of that wall, at this attorney's office in Houston, Texas, is a Geochron digital clock. And we're going to talk about that in just a minute. Now, I do these presentations quite a bit. The best ones are when people are interrupting me with questions, or at least they just ask questions. I love that. And so does anybody have any questions? Because otherwise I'm just talking to a screen. Can anybody talk to me about and have questions about Geochron? Anybody at all? All right. Okay, well, I'm going to keep going. But if anybody has a question, you just shout it out and I'll stop. And if it's something I'm going to answer, then I'll just say, I'm coming to that. But a lot of times I get the best questions, haven't even thought of it. But I am definitely the guy to ask. So here we go. Coming back to the attorney's shop. So what happened was I was running the machine shop and then we ran out of money. Have you ever had that moment where you owned a business and then you had this much in payables and you had this much in your checking account? That is exactly what happened to Geochron. And so people have been telling me for years, you should make a digital version. And so we cleared out a wall in the machine shop, and me and Tegan, who's still with me, got to work and thought, how do we get a copy of the mechanical clock on our digital, like on a digital 4K screen? And so we went to work, and what we invented was just kind of like a copy of the mechanical clock. So here we have, you can see the gray line. We're using the very same maps. We're just using an elaborate PDF version, but the maps are moving from left to right. I see that little white haze there, of the Earth at night lights. And in the end, and this picture was taken back in 2021, but this is a beautiful photo in Fort Lauderdale where people send me these photos from. We have weather, we've got ISS, HST, but we haven't even started on ham radio bundle yet. This was to come in 2022. So the product is constantly evolving. And if you're wondering where I get these pictures, it's because we have an installation photo contest at the end of every year where people win a prize if they send me the best installation photo. This one might win this year. This is the second largest cruise ship in America, in the world. And it is, there's definitely a Geochron on the back of the boardroom. What I wouldn't give to sit in that captain's chair and say, engage. That would be super cool. They're at a huge cruise ship. All right. But I've spotted the Geochrons other places too. This is astronaut Scott Kelly, and there's definitely a Geochron behind him in his home office in Colorado. And so what we're looking at right now, and I'm going to jump over to my Geochron. This is just like a screen capture that's live. So this is what my Geochron looks like right now. So right now, and you're looking at it in sort of like a 1080 resolution, but in 4K, it's really glittery. So I see a lot of ham radio traffic that's happening between Australia and North America. I see that the 20-meter band.
Patrick.
I'm sorry?
We're not seeing it. We're seeing your logo, we're not seeing your display.
Does it say live view of Geochron Actual in the screen?
Yes.
Oh, I have chosen the wrong thing. Hold on, let me fix that. Thank you. All right, let's try that again. Okay. Oh, I found it. How about that one?
Yes.
Okay, cool. What am I looking at right now? So I'm going to bounce back and forth between these two. So right now I'm seeing that 20-meter bands is pretty hot between Japan and the west coast of the United States where I'm at. But the pink, let's see, that's 14 meters. So like that's 17 meters is working between Europe and the east coast of the United States. But the orange circles that you see, and this is important because I'm trying to do more than just ham radio here on this living map. The orange circles that you see down on the coast of South America, down across from Japan, down in the ASEAN region above Australia, those orange circles are earthquakes that have happened in the last 24 hours. I'm also green is you could see swirling about. That's actually rain or it's precipitating right now on Earth. The blue is where it is where it's snowing. And then the white are just wispy clouds. That's the cloud, all that stuff. And if you look real close, I don't know if you could see it, but it's easiest to see probably over Brazil is live lightning strikes that are occurring. And here in a minute, we're going to get back to the other view of this. If I come over here, I'm going to jump over here to my Zoom and jump into the North American region. It's going to take a second to render that as it pulls it all together. And here we go. So I see the live locations of all the Alaska Airlines. There is a terrific storm. That's the little white ones. There's a terrific storm that's coming across the Midwest and really pummeling Colorado right now wow, Kansas just is covered with rain right now, as well as a threatening hurricane that is crossing Cuba right now that looks to be going nowhere and is going to divert down to the south here in a day or two. You can see that tracking down at the bottom. And then the Aurora forecast, and then just lots of 20 meters that's going on between ham radio operators across the country. So this is what I'm trying to do, is to create a living map of what the Geochron, that's what the Geochron is. So how do we get that done? Well, we started with a little computer platform. This is a public display computer. The problem that we were running into is that we could get this data, but we couldn't stream it in 4K to users' homes, because then it would be like watching a 4K movie. It's like you're on Netflix 24/7. And then instead of 20 gigabytes an hour, well, if you were doing 20 gigabytes an hour, then it would be like, you'd get a notice from your local service internet provider saying you're consuming way too much bandwidth. So we needed something that would construct the image on the client side, and then we would send the live data from our servers. And so that's what we did in this computer right here. So I'm taking it out of the box, and it's just an Intel quad-core computer that is working not on 20 gigabytes of bandwidth an hour, but just 20 megabytes of bandwidth per hour, and can also work off-grid, as long as you don't want the live stuff, because that, by definition, has to come over the grid. So it plugs into the back of the TV. You have a remote control that you can use, but you can also use a remote app, which we came out with just a few months ago. Find your HDMI port on your 4K TV, plug it in, and you're good to go. Most people will use this as a dedicated TV, but some people will like switch between, like HDMI 1 is the Geochron, HDMI 2 is something else. And you can use a bracket or something else to attach it to the back of the TV. But the unit gets quite warm because it's a fanless computer. So what are the things that we put on there? Well, real popular is the live view from the International Space Station. So you can see the International Space Station in its orbit happening all the time across the Geochron, as well as the Chinese space station, as well as any trackable satellite. But the International Space Station has a camera that's downward facing that you can get as a picture-in-picture on the screen on the Geochron. And here we are passing Monterrey, Mexico. Looks super cool. It's when the sun is shining and the network is good and the International Space Station is transmitting, because it looks magical. Love it. So I mentioned the earthquakes. We've got that going on. The North America has really great earthquake sensors, so good that it picks up earthquakes where they really shouldn't exist. Like if you look over by Dallas, you see that 3.74 that's above Dallas. And that is actually not near a caldera. It's not near a tectonic plate. There's no volcano that's happening in Dallas, not, I mean, so to speak. But what's happening there is it's fracking, right? So they're injecting seawater down into the mantle of the earth, the crust, and that's pushing the petroleum up into the up so they can extract it out of the soil. And it's cool. That causes earthquakes, of course. It's cool that you could see that on the geochron. And I mentioned aviation. So we're not to the point where we're tracking tail numbers or flight numbers. That's coming maybe in 2025, but we are tracking every available airline that's out there and also by continent. You can see, so like right now, if I jumped over to my live geochron, I'm showing all the Alaska Airlines flights. There are 134 flights in the sky for Alaska Airlines out of 10,611 commercial flights altogether around the world. It's mind blowing if people are not familiar with aviation, how much aviation traffic is going on. But you can track UPS, FedEx, and Lufthansa, and anything you want. The busiest would be like United and Delta. And so everybody got tired of this little remote app, up, down, left, right. Made sense 6-7 years ago, but now we have so many features that we needed a remote app. And so both for Android and for our phone application, whoops, here we go. Both for Android and Apple, we have an app through which you can operate the geochron that is the phone is registered to. And this makes it much faster and much easier to swoop around through all those layers. And before I get into weather, I'm going to pause for just a second. Does anybody have any questions that they want to ask me?
What about marathon tracking ships?
I can't quite make out your words. Can you get closer to the microphone, please?
Maritime ships.
What I'm hearing is a marathon, but I'm sure you're not talking about running races.
Maritime ships. Ships.
Oh, ships. Yes. Man, do I get that question all the time. Okay, so aviation traffic is democratized because every airplane has a transponder, and every airplane is usually traveling in areas where people can pick up that signal. And so there are many databases out there that allow aviation, that'll post up aviation stuff, and it's all coordinated through the FAA, which provides that information largely for free. But there is only one good source for maritime information using the transponders and self-reported locations of those ships, and that would be marinetraffic.net. And that's a syndicate. So that's not a government, that's a syndicate, and they are in it for the money. And I want marine traffic so bad. Every week someone asks this, but I can't afford to get that data. We're talking like $10,000 a month kind of data for me to use that commercially, even though you can get it on a browser for free. For me to buy it and then use it commercially, propagating it all to atlases out there, that's more than our little company can afford at this point. Other questions? All right, cool. I'll keep going.
That's also the same problem with railroads, right? Is because they're not like centralized like airplanes.
Oh, railroads?
It's the same problem, right? With trains, there's no way to.
To answer that honestly, I've just started looking into railroads. Only 2 people have mentioned it to me. You're number 2. So, but I think that's doable. Yeah. I think that's doable, really. And I think the geochron would be perfect, right, to put that into that North American view of where the railroads are. And well, so I've got a list as long as my arm of what people want to see on a living map, and that would be that's a good one. That might be an easy grab.
That would be useful for traffic routing for companies.
Yeah. Other questions?
Yeah.
All right.
Do you track Santa Claus?
We do. We have the Santa Claus tracker, and it is 100% accurate all the time. We run that on Christmas Eve. Yep.
I've seen.
As far as the weather map, is there a delay in the data or is it live?
Yeah. So Santa Claus Tracker is absolutely 100% live all the time and completely accurate. But for everything else, it's usually you can expect a lag of 1 to 5 minutes at the most. Like weather radar is like maybe 1 to 2 minutes lag. Because it's coming through the source to our server and then being pushed out through your internet service provider to your geocron. So, but I wouldn't expect anything more than a couple of minutes. Sometimes it's within seconds. And that's exciting. Love that part. Other questions? All right, good. Let's talk a little bit about weather. So last year at this time was an exciting time in August of 2023. We had 3 hurricanes that were brewing off the Atlantic in this screenshot, and we had 3 typhoons that were brewing in the Pacific as well. But this year was no less exciting. So we had 3 hurricanes that Geochron, but by this time we had a weather layer put together where we were looking at the actual images, like geo satellite images overlaid on the map and then overlaid again by the radar. It was gorgeous. So this is one of the screenshots that I took about 2 months ago. Here's another one from this year. That red haze is the vapor barrier, the vapor radar. That was also being shown. There's lots of different ways to mix and match what you want to see. But there's lots of stuff. Here's some of the stuff too: jet streams and animated wind. If you're familiar with the website windy.com, I'm like, can we do that? Can we make kind of the wind swirl around North America like that? They're like, yes, we can do that. Can we do it around the world? Yes, we can do it. So we did that on a geochron. This is really just a thing of like asking somebody asking about railroads. And then what do you know? 6 months later, I figured out how to get railroads onto it. So, and then also time-lapse radar. And then I've mentioned live lightning and ocean temperatures as well. Here is vapor. I think that's a really photogenic one. You can see that there's a hurricane when I took that one, hurricane off the coast of Texas, and you can see how that concentrates so much. There's so much vapor in the air. And then the ever photogenic temperature layer. So this is in a global view. You can see that it's cooking in South America, that it is cooking in Africa. It's pretty temperate and raining in Europe, and that it is cooking in the American South. But where I live, it was just cold. So there was a huge temperature gradient that was happening, similar to the temperature gradient you see in Australia, where it's changing by 80 degrees between the top of the continent and the bottom of the continent in this screenshot. So, which gives to things about live views that have a personal impact. So here's one of my little stories. 3 years ago, I live on the outskirts of Portland, and we got a notice to evacuate due to a major fire that was in the area. We have a burning season around here. There's a lot of stuff to burn. And so we don't get hurricanes, we get fires. So this is the picture that I took as the fire was close to our city. And just about the same time, there was reports of looting that was going on and the exterior areas because the sheriffs could not defend all of the houses that had been recently abandoned, right? Because people were being ordered to evacuate. And at that same time, UPS pulls up the driveway and delivers $250,000 worth of computer hardware and dumps it on my driveway as we are evacuating and doesn't ring the doorbell and doesn't knock on the door and drives off. And then my daughter says, "Hey, Dad, UPS just left a bunch of boxes on your driveway," which amounted to my life savings. So I was going to use this hardware and turn this into atlases, load it up, put it together, get it into kits. This is what we do. So we quickly loaded it all into my front room, and the girls left for Seattle to go hang out with the in-laws. And I'm like, I'm not leaving. This is my life savings. I don't want anybody to live in my house. I'm sitting here with a shotgun. So I did. And I woke up the next morning, and then I loaded it all into the back of my little Ranger pickup truck, and which was worth 1/100th the value of what was in the back of that pickup truck. And then fortunately, I had a friend load that off into his warehouse in the middle of Portland, which kind of, one more way Geochron is saved from the fires of destruction. But what's cool about this is that you could see those fires of destruction on the map at the same time. So there it was in Lower Oregon. You see all that red and orange, and that is the carbon monoxide layer that is being picked up by satellites transmitted to the geochron and has a direct impact on what's happening in my world. And I think that was pretty cool that you could see that on a geochron. So let's talk about the ham radio bundle. These pictures, right? We get them from these installation contests that we do at the end of the year. And this guy is the winner for 2022, Toronto. Met him at Hamvention in Ohio. And his son stood on top of a ladder and held the camera up and took this great picture, and he won. He won the contest. That is a great looking shack. So what we did was we realized that 50% of our customers are ham radio. So we better do a good job with this. And we put together this map that you should recognize. And then we added FT8, Whisper, and DX. And what that looks like here, and I'm going to jump over to my live geochron in real time. And this is what it looks like in real time. You've already seen this. I'm still in North America. 20 meters is hot now. And with some coming up on, a little bit of 30 meters going on too. So this is like opening up a phone book and seeing what's happening in real time in a visual way in your shack in a 4K screen. So you could also put up the call signs if you want to, but it sort of obliterates the rest of the map. There's just way too much to show at one time. But you're like with PSK Reporter, you're decoding what the traffic is by looking at the color bands in the legend at the bottom of the screen. Putting it all together, you see some dude is going crazy on 20 meters up there in Vancouver, British Columbia. And then it's following the gray line, of course, because the gray line, the ionosphere, is specifically reactive during the sunset hours. And so you see a lot of traffic. This is normal on a geochron. You see it kind of following where the sunlight pattern is. Because that's how the ionosphere works. But at the same time, you see that there was a major earthquake in Indonesia, that there were scattered earthquakes. The pink is those satellites, AMSAT, FM, and linear that are moving around. And the big egg that is next to my living picture off Peru, that is the footprint of CAS 3 Delta. So you can put footprints on anything that you'd like when it comes to the satellites. Putting it all together, it's pretty remarkable. This is a fast motion thing, but you can see the map is slowly moving from left to right. The satellites are swinging around, the aviation's flying, the ISS is coming down under New Zealand, and of course there's DX, FT8, and Whisper that's happening all over the place. And if you have a QRZ subscription, you could load your logbook to the geochron as well. And every photo that I get from geochron owners, they've always got their ham license call sign prominently displayed. And so you can put that as big as you want on the screen in whatever color you like, including this one, K3LR. Does anybody recognize? Does anybody know who that is? There you go, man. That's a bucket list. I want to visit that guy. I think he's got 3 mechanicals and 2 digitals in his shack, but along with everything else. That would be super awesome. I want to visit him. He's been a longtime fan of geochron. And then something interesting is that I didn't know this when I first became a ham, but there's a sublunar and moon terminator as well. It just never occurred to me. And so you can see that the sublunar point at the time I took this picture was a full moon directly over Australia, and then the pink is where the moon is shining. This, at the same time, correlates with the gray line, which is coming up, and then you see continuing to arc across Asia. And this should look familiar. And that should look familiar. One of the things I want to do is get live aurora reports on the map so that you can see auroras happening in real time as where they're located. And aurorasaurus.com is working on an API, which to me means like a database for that as we speak. That should look familiar. And then we get into maximum usable frequency. So the green dots are the actual locations of ionospheric radars, and they are sending up many different frequencies up into the ionosphere and seeing which ones bounce back. And then they're reporting the frequency that gets, at what point does it get lost? So the higher the frequency, the more likely it is to get bounce out into space. So here I'm on the West Coast and I'm on 20. And then maybe I want to try to hit Japan. So I'm going to go from 20, and then using those topographical lines that you see, I'm moving from 20 to 19 to 18 and then to 15. And so the maximum usable frequency I can hit is 15, because if I went above 15 megahertz, then it would bounce off into space about the time it got to Japan. So that's how that works. You can also look at that as a heat map on a geochron, like a giant pond of radioactivity, but it kind of obliterates everything else. So I usually don't use it as a heat map, but it's cool to look at. Putting it all together, this is one of the problems with geochron. There's just too much to show. So I can't even tell. I got a heat map going on. I've got DXing with call signs. I've got solar weather, planetary location. I've got precipitation and clouds, and ISS and HST. And I don't think I'm showing Earth at nights, but I'm not showing aviation. But there's too much. So one of the things that geochron does is you can turn toggles on, turn layers. You could toggle them on and off, or you could put them on an opacity slider. So like I want to see 50% strength of that, 75% strength of this, 25% strength of that, and you can mix and match what you like, and then save those profiles within the geochron, and then have them rotate through. Like I want to see the weather now. I want to see ham radio every 10 minutes, that kind of stuff. So and then putting all, and then also one of the ways that we make the multitude of layers more clear is by using a grayscale mode in our maps. That would be geopolitical, topographical, and ham. And so you see that here that the layers are in color, so they pop out a lot better. This is my favorite setting, but it's not for everybody, but I think it looks cool. So the big question that I get is, what does it cost? And then does the data cost anything? So let me talk about that. So with the coupon that I've got for you today, you can get the platform, all the maps and the time, plus 16 layers anytime you plug in the geochron for the $3.99, and then that doesn't cost. There's no subscription associated with that. You just pay the $3.99 to get all the stuff, including 16 layers anytime you connect it via Wi-Fi or the internet. For special audiences that want specific stuff, that would include ham radio and that would include weather people, that there are some live layers. And so what's the difference between what's included and what's premium data? Because that data costs me money, not just to send to you, but I have to buy that data from another vendor because I don't have 1,000 weather stations around the world and that are providing everything that I want to see on a geochron. So I do pay for all that. So what's always included is the column on the left. Let me get my face off this. Hold on. There we go. So what's always included is stuff that I would want students to see. So geochron is installed in a lot of schools and universities around the world. And if I was sitting in front with a student and I'm like, let me explain how the weather works. Let me explain how the insulation, let me explain how the grain line works. Let me explain how aviation is happening, or all the satellites that are in the sky, the tens of thousands of satellites that are out there. That's what's on the left. That's what I want them to see. If a school plugged it in, that's what they get to see. It wouldn't charge them anything. Even though it costs me money to send that information, I just want them to see it. And anybody who has an atlas would get that information forever. The premium layers are more, you can do it a la carte. That would be all the fancy weather, ham radio bundled to earthquakes, ISS. But if you wanted all of it, and you wanted it all the time, we call that our global pass. And the global pass is at the moment $11 a month. And that includes everything. That's all the data all the time. So that's the way that we make it affordable for everybody. And we have thousands of users that are on some sort of plan, but thousands more that just buy the thing, plug it in, and they just get all that stuff for free on the left-hand side. But everything that's on the right-hand side and the premium layers, they can do that as a trial for a week, see if they like it. And if they don't, then they don't have to pay for it. But if they do, then we certainly would welcome you subscribing to it. And many people will just pick the global pass, because if they're going to make an investment into this big living map in 4K on a dedicated screen, they're going to want all the data all the time. So that's how our business model works. And what they do with it is pretty great. So this is the winner for 2023. This guy he's actually a cable guy, and you can tell he's up in north of Boise, Idaho, and you can tell because I don't see any cables. It looks so great. Like, I wish my office looked that good. And then we also have weather guys. And a common thing as I visit all my geochron owners is everybody is into Star Trek, or they have weather stations. And so this guy hits it all, including the Star Trek. Can you find Star Trek in that picture? It's over his left shoulder, and he's definitely a first generation guy. And I love that desk too. That looks really good. I think that guy is in Massachusetts. I'd like to visit him someday as well. So because you listened to me rattle on about Geochron, and I'll pause for questions here and take all the questions you like. I'm going to give you, there's a deal here that is better than what you'd find at Hamcation or Hamvention or any ham show where it's offering Geochron. And that's $100 off plus a free ham radio bundle plus free shipping. And the way you need to do that is you just simply email coupon@geochron.com and the system will send you back a code that you can use to get a Geochron at geochron.com. And ultimately that comes from this office right here where we do all the work. So yeah. Anyway, let me jump back to my big face. Let me answer some more questions. What do you think?
Amazing.
Thank you, Dave.
Patrick,
Yeah.
can you show the map and explain the figure 8 at the center of the traditional map, the immediate, and tell us about what that is? What it
The
represents?
analemma. Yeah, right. That is like the number 4 question, I think. So let me jump over here to the global view, and I'm using my remote as I do this. And I'm going to jump over here to the ham radio map, and then we'll jump out. Okay. So let me get to the big screen. Just a moment. Here we go. So there's a figure 8 that is right over the international date line as we look at this. And the screen is populating, but you see that figure 8 and the sun, there's a little bright spot that is heading north and I said heading south. And when the sun reaches the bottom of the figure 8, that's winter solstice. And then it will take 6 months for the sun to go all the way to the north of that figure 8, and that would be the summer solstice, where it will be the shortest day of the longest day of the year in the northern hemisphere and the shortest day of the year in the southern hemisphere. And this is a great way to explain seasons because it's the heat from the sun that causes the water to move that makes it hot and cold all over the world. So since this is such a normal question, if I was standing in your shack explaining this, I would come down to general and then come to start demo mode and turn it on. And then I included a video. There it is. I included a video of this working in fast motion. So you can see that little figure 8 and the sun on it moving up and down and how that affects the grade line over all the seasons. So that was pretty quick because we have to do a lot of educating here with about how solar mechanics work and how terrestrial mechanics work. Because when people look at a map, that's just they just start looking at the world in a new way. Maps, man, maps are beautiful. I think maps might solve the problems in America. Actually, that's awesome. So I'll jump back here. So that is the analemma. That's what that does. It's trying to tell you the position of the sun at high noon. High in the summer, low in the winter. Other questions?
I do, but I had a question. On the volcanoes were going on, were you able, would that show up on your map?
If you could step closer to the microphone, I'll be able to hear you better.
When all the volcanoes were going off in Hawaii, did that show up on your maps?
Yes, it does. So that we do have a volcano layer, and so the volcanoes will show up, and you can organize them by are they active volcanoes, or are they 1,000 years old, or are they 10,000 years old? But faster than the volcano layer would be the earthquake layer, which when the volcanoes go off, there's just like blue, 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 blue. There's just circles and circles and circles of earthquakes that are coming off of Hawaii. Yeah. Other questions?
I'm hoping you could hear me.
I gotcha.
Is there enough real-time data or near real-time data to have Mars, or the Moonicon, moon, to just for giggles to see what's going on and what the sun gray areas look like for those celestial bodies?
Yeah, so you can see that the deepest that we get into what's going on with the sun would be the widget that is on the left of the geochron that you see there. But as far as tapping into databases that where people are logging their DX, FT8, and Whisper stuff, and also the Mars, so are you speaking of like what's going on Mars, or are you talking about the emergency network?
It'd be kind of neat to see the sun pattern on Mars and the
Okay, all
temperature
right.
party, and if there's any sensors from the rovers to see what the wind pattern is,
Yeah.
and not limit yourself just to Earth, but to go a
Yeah.
little bit further out.
Oh man, maps. Let's go. Let's visit some planets. So yes, so we don't do that at the moment. But I do get occasional questions. Can you show Mars? Can you show the sun? Can you show anything from Lord of the Rings? Can you show these fictitious places as well? I think that's on the list, but but probably not coming up real soon. There's plenty of data that I want to show here on the planet that we're living on, including the news. That's where we're going to head in 2025. I want the screen to go. I want on the map. I want it to go bloop bloop bloop. Oh, another missile launch. Bloop bloop bloop. Political crisis here. Bloop bloop bloop. Bus ran off into a ravine and killed a bunch of people. Bloop bloop bloop. There's some sort of breakout of Ebola. I want that going on in the geochron the same, and just taking the world through the map. So, but that's where we're heading.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Other questions? All right. All right. Well, like I said, if you have any, you can email coupon at geocron.com if you want to like try out one of these. But you can also just email me. I'm Patrick. I'm Patrick at geocron.com. And I think you all got my little card. It's got my email address on there. And if you have any questions, thank you, Kenneth. You have any questions? I'm sitting here all the time, mostly thinking about how to make Geocron better. So please tell me what you think at patrick@geocron.com.
Patrick, thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody.
I've got Patrick's business cards for you, so just any of you would be interested in one of his cards. So I think that's it for tonight's program. And we have to think about next month, December. That's usually a time of fellowship. So what we'll do, I'll bring in a cooler with ice and drinks, and then somebody can bring in some plates and napkins, and then bring your favorite treats, brownies or cookies or whatever. Bring in something you like and would like to share, and that'll be our time for December meeting. And since it's a Christmas season of giving, maybe you have some old gear that you would like to gift to somebody else. If you've been doing some shaft cleaning, then that would be fine too, to bring something that you would like to gift. And but if there are no takers, you have to take it back home. So we can't have that. So oh, okay. So if that's it, and that's the end of our meeting, our time together. So thank you for your consideration. And thank you for all doing our